Welcome back to the channel, Peacock TV Spoilers family. We've been tracking this for weeks, and the situation with Amy Choi is finally reaching an explosive boiling point. As we dive into the week of the 8th of June 2026, the official spoilers reveal a devastating blow for a fiercely grieving mother. Amy Choi has officially failed to get Holly Jonas charged with manslaughter for the tragic, untimely death of Sophia Choi. Can you believe it? After everything that has happened, after the relentless cyberbullying, and the horrifying events that led to Sophia Choi plunging into the treacherous waters of the Salem River, the justice system is completely turning a blind eye. Amy Choi is left standing in the ashes of her shattered life, holding nothing but the fading memories of her presumed dead daughter, while the privileged girl who tormented her walks completely free. That's crazy. But if you think Amy Choi is just going to pack her bags, accept defeat, and leave Salem quietly with her husband Jason Choi, you are sorely mistaken. When the traditional legal system fails in a corrupt town like Salem, desperate people take matters into their own hands. And you won't believe what happens next, because Amy Choi is about to find the most dangerous, powerful, and emotionally driven ally in town, Melinda Trask. The upcoming spoilers confirm that next week, a completely shattered Amy Choi will turn to Melinda Trask to passionately confide in her. Now, we already know from our internal timelines that Melinda Trask actually cared deeply for Sophia Choi. They shared a unique, unspoken bond, and Melinda Trask saw immense potential in that young, troubled girl. To see Sophia Choi's vibrant life snuffed out so prematurely has undoubtedly struck a massive, agonizing nerve with the ruthless legal powerhouse. Let's be real for a second. I need to take a moment for my hot take of the day, and I know some of you in the comments are going to come for me, but I do not care. I passionately defend Amy Choi in this scenario, and I ruthlessly criticize Holly Jonas. Holly Jonas is playing the ultimate victim right now, sitting safely behind the massive iron gates of the Kiriaki's mansion, being comforted by Tate Black, and acting like she is the one who suffered the most profound tragedy. It is absolutely disgusting. Holly Jonas was a vicious, calculated cyberbully. She pushed Sophia Choi to the absolute brink of psychological despair. Nicole Walker raised a privileged, manipulative brat who genuinely thinks her crocodile tears can wash away her deadly sins. If you ask me, this is a huge mistake because the show is trying to make us feel sorry for Holly Jonas. But I am entirely on Team Amy Choi. Holly Jonas deserves to face severe, life-altering consequences. And the fact that she is breathing a sigh of relief while Amy Choi is planning a funeral makes my blood boil. But here's the kicker. Melinda Trask is not just a random, sympathetic shoulder for Amy Choi to cry on. We have to look at the legacy history of this show to truly understand why this specific alliance is going to be so incredibly lethal. This reminds me of what happened years ago with Melinda Trask and her own beloved daughter, Haley Chen. For those who might be newer viewers or need a refresher, Melinda Trask had a secret daughter, Haley Chen, whom she initially passed off as her younger sister to protect her from severe immigration issues and public scandal. Melinda Trask sacrificed her reputation, her career trajectory, and her own happiness to protect Haley Chen, only to lose her in a senseless, tragic accident when J.J. Devereaux had a psychotic break and pushed Haley Chen down a flight of stairs. Melinda Trask knows exactly what it feels like to have your precious child ripped away from you by the reckless actions of Salem's elite, and she knows exactly what it feels like when true, uncompromised justice is denied. I personally believe that when Amy Choi sits down with Melinda Trask in that dimly lit room, the floodgates of their shared, unbearable trauma are going to burst wide open. Melinda Trask is going to look deeply into Amy Choi's tear-filled, desperate eyes and see her own broken reflection from years ago. Melinda Trask is going to share the agonizing, haunting story of Haley Chen's death, and that shared grief is going to forge an unbreakable, unholy pact between these two fierce women. Amy Choi is going to explicitly ask Melinda Trask to find a way to punish Holly Jonas, and Melinda Trask is going to agree without a moment of hesitation. Amazing. This is the exact kind of deep, psychological storytelling we have been begging for. It is not just about a standard soap opera revenge plot. It is about two devastated mothers who have been entirely broken by a town that protects its legacy families at all costs, deciding to burn the system to the ground. So, what exactly happens next, based on the show's internal logic? Let's dive into some predictive lore. Melinda Trask knows every single legal loophole, every dirty courtroom trick, and every dark corner of the Salem justice system. If she cannot get Holly Jonas thrown in a cold prison cell for manslaughter, she is going to systematically destroy Holly Jonas's life in a dozen other agonizing ways. I predict we are going to see a massive, unprecedented civil lawsuit designed to completely bankrupt Nicole Walker and entirely ruin Holly Jonas's future prospects. Melinda Trask could easily orchestrate a relentless campaign of legal harassment, subpoenaing Tate Black, dragging E.J. DiMera into the public mud, and making sure that Holly Jonas cannot step foot outside the Kyriakis mansion without facing a terrifying barrage of legal and social consequences. But the vengeance definitely won't stop at just filing legal paperwork. Melinda Trask is incredibly resourceful and highly connected to the dark underbelly of Salem. What if she and Amy Choi decide to completely and ruthlessly isolate Holly Jonas? They know perfectly well that Tate Black is Holly Jonas's biggest and perhaps only support system right now. I theorize that Melinda Trask will use her vast connections to dig up devastating dirt on Tate Black, forcing him into an impossible corner where he must choose between his own future and protecting Holly Jonas. If they can successfully break the romantic and emotional bond between Tate Black and Holly Jonas will be left completely alone, drowning in her own toxic survivor's guilt. Amy Choi wants Holly Jonas to feel the exact same level of suffocating isolation and sheer despair that Sophia Choi felt before she ended up floating in the Salem River. We also have to talk about Jason Choi for a moment, because his presence adds a fascinating layer of friction to this dynamic. While Amy Choi is out here forming a dangerous vigilante alliance with Melinda Trask, Jason Choi is heavily mourning the presumed death of his daughter in a much quieter, more traditional way. Jason Choi might simply be looking for closure, desperately hoping to find Sophia Choi's body downstream, to give her a proper, respectful burial. But Amy Choi is entirely consumed by the roaring flames of vengeance. This could create a massive, heartbreaking rift in their marriage. Jason Choi might try to pull Amy Choi back from the psychological brink, begging her to let the authorities handle it, but Amy Choi is way too far gone. When she teams up with Melinda Trask, she is effectively choosing blood-soaked revenge over her own husband's desperate need for peace. And we absolutely cannot ignore the massive, looming shadow of Kristen DiMera in all of this chaos. We know from tracking the timelines that Sophia Choi was not just a tragic victim of teenage cyberbullying. She was deeply wrapped up in a deadly, chaotic plot involving Kristen DiMera and a failed assassination attempt on Johnny DiMera. Sophia Choi was swimming in waters way over her head. What happens when Melinda Trask, with her razor-sharp investigative skills, starts pulling at the frayed threads of Sophia Choi's final, frantic days? If Melinda Trask and Amy Choi discover that Kristen DiMera manipulated Sophia Choi and then hired the ruthless Xander Kyriakis to clean up the bloody mess, this storyline is going to explode into an all-out, catastrophic war. Imagine the sheer, terrifying power of an alliance between a grieving Amy Choi and a legally brilliant Melinda Trask going up against the lethal, psychotic force of Kristen DiMera. Amy Choi firmly thinks Holly Jonas is the only villain here, but Melinda Trask might uncover that the powerful DiMera family used Sophia Choi as a completely disposable pawn. If that dark truth comes to light, Amy Choi's blinding rage is going to shift from a spoiled teenage cyberbully to the most dangerous, murderous woman in Salem. Melinda Trask has tangled with the DiMeras before, and she is not afraid to play dirty. This could lead to a spectacular, explosive summer climax, where Amy Choi finally gets the blood she is demanding, but it might not be Holly Jonas's blood that ultimately spills on the streets of Salem. The psychological depth of this unfolding storyline is truly staggering to witness. We are watching Amy Choi transform right before our eyes, from a grieving, heartbroken mother into a hardened, vengeful force of nature. She is weaponizing her profound grief, and with Melinda Trask acting as the brilliant architect of her revenge, Holly Jonas should be absolutely terrified for her life. The Kyriakis mansion walls are simply not thick enough to protect Holly Jonas from a mother who has absolutely nothing left to lose. I am completely strapped in for this wild ride, and I cannot wait to see how Melinda Trask unleashes absolute hell on every single person who wronged Sophia Choi. So, Peacock TV Spoilers family, I have to ask you, do you think Melinda Trask will cross the line and do something highly illegal to punish Holly Jonas, or will she strictly use the corrupt legal system to slowly torture her? Drop your wildest, most unhinged theories in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button to Peacock TV Spoilers so you never miss an update on this explosive storyline.